southern border.
There are 3 active groups that our cameras are seeing on the border. This was one of them.
This will be an elect of Kavanaugh, the caravan, law and order, and common sense.
We hold the House and we increase the Senate because I think that's justice.
President Trump says it looks like a missing Saudi journalist is dead, and the consequences for Saudi Arabia could be severe.
This is a time for the United States to push for its goals in the region. Now maybe we can say to Saudi Arabia, we want you to stand with us even more firmly.
We owe the American people to be there for them, for their financial security. If there's some collateral damage, well, so be it.
Did you buy your lotto ticket yet? Tonight's Mega Millions jackpot now leaping to an insane $970 million, the second largest U.S. jackpot in history.
Good morning. This is a Fox News alert. 8 o'clock here in New York City. Moments ago, our cameras rolling as Border Patrol agents bust illegals, apparently, crossing into the state of Texas from Mexico.
Yeah, pretty dramatic, as you could see it right there on camera this morning. Massive migrant caravan is also inching closer to the United States.
Our own Griff Jenkins, he was there on the scene. He's live for us now in McAllen, Texas, with a new plan to stop thousands from crossing our border. Griff, good morning to you.
Good morning, guys. Since I spoke to you last, we've made more arrests. The infiltration across this border continues. We've gone deep into the brush. Another group of individuals. Now, you're looking at 3 guys that we came deep into this brush that they had located and found these 3 individuals. One, they're all in their 20s. One man is from Honduras. 2 are from, one is from Guatemala. 2 are from El Salvador, I believe. And as you can see, the agent we're with, Robert Rodriguez, he's doing his work. We're not going to bother him, but I tell you, it's unbelievable the work they're having to do because of the conditions. You can see we also have a dog that assisted because these guys, unlike the last group that was running at us over tracks, these guys were bedded down in this thick brush. As we're gonna go with them, I believe, as they take them out of this brush to start processing them. And you know, as Ainsley was asking the last hour, these illegal crossers will be prosecuted. I'll just let you get up here, John. You can walk. You want our cameraman to trip. This is very difficult terrain. This is very difficult stuff, but these guys will be prosecuted, unlike the family units that seek asylum peacefully, because they broke a law by entering. We're a mile north of the border, coming across that Rio Grande River, and these guys are going to be turned over to ICE. They're not going to be deported to Mexico because they're not Mexican. Now, the gentleman that was in the car with us earlier was from Reynosa, Mexico, just across the border. That indicates to our Border Patrol agents, they believe that he may be the guide. We asked this group if he was with them, and they had nothing to say. They didn't want to talk about that. But this is just part of the absolute overwhelming numbers. As we're out here in just literally 90 minutes, we've chased what is now 4 groups. You can safely say, according to the agents here, that as many as 75 to 100 illegal aliens are actively trying to cross into the United States at this very moment, and this brave handful of Border Patrol agents are doing everything they can to stop them and try and prosecute them. As we go now, just watch the railroad tracks. John, I don't want my cameraman to trip, but this is the sort of thing that they're dealing with every single day. This is business as usual. And as we found out, the numbers of family units that are turning themselves over safely for asylum is 16,000 last month, up 80% from July. That takes these guys' resources away, and that means fewer agents can be out here doing this very difficult task of apprehending these guys.
Hey, Griff, I've got a question for you. I mean, this is amazing that we're actually watching this happen live as these folks are being detained. I would imagine the agents, when they stop them, before they handcuff them, they must speak to them. Do you have any idea what they're saying about why they came to the United States?
Well, they pat them down, Steve, because remember, assault on agents is a major concern right now. Yesterday, these same very agents in this same very location had a group that had 230 pounds of marijuana with them as well. So they do the security part first, then they begin to try and debrief them, find out where they're from, who they are, and why they're coming here. But in this case, it appears this second group, and the first one we were on, was a group where agents tell me they pay anywhere from $4,000 to $8,000 per person to the Coyotes to try and get them across. And you can see how it's turned out for them now as we take this group back to be processed. And this is shift. The shift comes on at like 6 a.m. So this is a brand new shift. These guys, our agents, are going to be busy all day long. And this is really a testament to the overwhelming job they've got. But they've got also, remember, we still have 3 other groups right now actively trying to infiltrate, and they're still trying to pursue them right now. And this is the same group we're with. So, the amount of briefings, Steve, that they can do is really pretty much rudimentary, find out where they are, but they have to find out whether they're particularly Mexican or from other countries in Mexico, because if they're Mexican, we have an agreement with the country to possibly deport them. It's a little different than if you're from Honduras, El Salvador, Guatemala, because then they're turned over to ICE for a different process.
Griff, this is just incredible to see this happening. And sometimes I know that there are drugs involved and they're trying to smuggle them over the border. Other times it's people that are just fleeing really bad and dangerous situations. And so you have a heart for those individuals, even though we know that they need to do it the right way. How do these Border Patrol agents, how do they catch them in the middle of the night? Were they using infrared equipment?
They do. We have cameras and detectors that we don't want to give away too much information, but they're able to watch this border and they know the typical routes and patterns. But you talk a little bit about who these people are. The agent was just telling me a few weeks ago they had a gentleman, seemed to be very nice, in his mid-50s, seemed like he was just trying to come over here, said he was coming to visit family for the holidays. Turns out he had a rap sheet with all sorts of aggravated crimes, including attempted murder.
That happens a lot. Look what happened with Kate Steinle's killer. And we've interviewed so many of these angel moms, and they say that they get sent back to their country and they come right back in. Their rap sheet's very long.
Indeed. Griff, stand by. Let's deal in Geraldo Rivera, Fox News correspondent at large. Geraldo, all eyes have been on Central America because it sounds like there's another caravan of people heading our way for a variety of reasons. You just saw what happened with Griff there in McAllen, Texas. What are your observations?
A couple of them, Steve. First of all, happy birthday to you. It's you're one of the nicest guys in the news business, and we love you, and happy birthday. Secondly, congratulations to Griff on his vivid reporting on the border. But I will submit to you that you could film that story every single day, that they are a desperately poor people. They live adjacent to the richest country on earth. They want the American dream, so they risk everything to try to cross that border. That is the reality. The vast majority of them are law-abiding. They pick the apricots, they babysit, they mow the lawns, they pack the poultry, they process the meat packing and so forth. They're good people. The United States economy is booming. They see opportunity on one side of the fence, and they see destitute life, no hope for their children. That's what's the incentive. But you have to be very careful. What Griff is seeing is where Mexico meets the United States. That is our southern border. The caravan that everyone is talking about is on Mexico's southern border with Guatemala. And I think that congratulations to President Trump. He has gotten through these new negotiations, the new NAFTA, so to speak. He's gotten the Mexican government engaged. Peña Nieto, the outgoing Mexican president, sent 2 aircraft yesterday with Mexican special forces to stop the caravan at the Guatemala-Mexico border, well over 1,000 miles from here. But just very briefly, to show you how contentious this issue is, yesterday, just outside the Oval Office, you had the White House Chief of Staff, General John Kelly, and the National Security Advisor, John Bolton, having an obscenity-laced shouting match that almost came to blows over how hard or harsh the administration's response to this flood of migrants should be. So it's a damnable, difficult problem, guys.
Well, Geraldo, you're right, certainly, that there are some who are seeking a better life, and they want their piece of the American dream. Absolutely, and our hearts go out to them. But what about the folks that Griff was just mentioning, where these Border Patrol agents, they don't know what's happening in the middle of the night, in the darkness, and some of these folks have long rap sheets, and they have bad intentions. Shouldn't there be, whether it's a wall or something else, to toughen the border so that the people with the long rap sheets are not just running through in the middle of the night?
First of all, I am in favor of the wall. The president should get his wall. Elections have consequences. The majority of people in the majority of electoral states voted for President Trump and the border wall. He should get his wall. At the same time, I would like to see him be compassionate and inclusive and give the DREAM Act kids, those brought here as children at a very young age through no fault of their own, give them a path to citizenship. I think that is a good compromise, and once the midterms, the damnable midterms are over, I think that a compromise is possible. But this issue, the porous southern border, has been with me my whole half-century of reporting, and I'm afraid it will be with us forever, guys.
Griff, let's dial you in on this conversation. React to what Geraldo just said, and how big a difference, and as we're watching a couple more people being processed right there in McAllen, Texas, how big a difference would the wall make if there were one right where you are?
Well, the wall, when I talk to the agents here, and I've been in this RGV sector, the heaviest traffic sector in the nation for the U.S.-Mexico border, the wall makes a huge difference as a deterrent because the people that are trying to come here illegally, and my heart goes out to Geraldo, he's right about the compassion, but there is the asylum process. So if you come across the bridge and you seek asylum peacefully, you're not breaking a law. If you come here illegally, you're breaking a law, but if there's a wall in front of you, you're going to go around it and find a different route. And so agents here, and certainly the sector chief, Manuel Padilla, told me on camera a few months ago, it is critical to have a wall because it then is a deterrent in any given area that will limit the funnels and routes that these smugglers, these cartels can take.
Geraldo, let me ask you a question about this because Newt Gingrich and then also the president yesterday in the rally was saying that voters are going to go to the polls because of Kavanaugh and because of the caravans. How big of a deal is this immigration issue as we approach the midterms?
Well, Ainsley, as you know, because you're a pro at this, you know how deeply Americans feel about it. We see, regardless of your ethnic background, you see a porous border. My, Sol's 13, my daughter, she said, Daddy, don't countries have borders? Yes, they have borders. And I'm for the wall, among other reasons, that it's a compromise, and the president wanted fair and square in the election. But also, as Griff suggests, it funnels the law-abiding migrants, otherwise law-abiding, Juan and Maria, the apricot pickers. It funnels them in a way that they won't be walking across the desert, risking life and limb and rape and all of these other horrible things that happen to them, exploitation as they make it across the Mexican desert. If there's a wall, they'll come to the entry points, and those, as Griff again says, who deserve asylum or at least a hearing on asylum because of the conditions, gang warfare in their home states of Honduras, Guatemala, Nicaragua, El Salvador, the Central American states. If that's why they ran, because of the gang violence, then maybe they have a beef in terms of asylum. But we are an immigrant country, and that is the balance. We want to have compassion. We want to have a new guy. We want to have a free path. Our forebears were all immigrants. Of course, I'm 10% Native American, so I feel a little bit differently. But we want to balance compassion and pragmatism. We have to have controls at the southern border.
Okay, real quick, Griff, we've got 30 seconds. What's happening right there right now in McAllen, Texas?
So this is just part of what the agents face. This is another gentleman here since we've been doing this live shot. The dog's working this line, and a guy coming out trying to run for it, and they've apprehended another one. It's just a nonstop, constant cat and mouse game that is exhausting our Border Patrol, and they're doing their best job, and they've got another guy that'll now be prosecuted.
Go ahead.
Griff, what happens now to these guys? Is it catch and release here? Do they go take them and fill out paperwork and then release them into the United States? What happens now?
Well, it is catch and release that they believe south of the border is why they come. But in this case, they are prosecuted if they're not from Mexico and they're from another country. They're turned over to ICE. The question is, Ainsley, whether or not we've got places to keep them because the numbers are so strong. And when you don't have any more space in the family units and you don't have places to put in the ICE facilities, then they have to release them and give them a summons to come back. And guess what? That's a run notice. They're never to be seen again. They blend into the fabric of the country, and that's what this is all about.
Hey, another question for you, Griff, and you're down there because we are talking about the caravan that is still over 1,000 miles away right now, according to all estimates in Central America. But would the caravan come to your location, or would they go to a regular border port to be processed?
We don't have any idea. The last time this caravan came, they came to different points between California, Arizona, and Texas border. This group could very well come to this one. This is a very trafficked one, and the Hidalgo, McAllen, Reynosa Bridge is a very popular place to go. The problem is, wherever they come, Steve, it is going to be an overwhelming task that's going to strain these guys. And so, you know, what happened this morning, understand this point. You had the group of family people that we haven't even shown you that surrendered themselves, that then let the cartels run what was ultimately three or four different groups. There may be some that have contraband and dope that are trying to infiltrate in, but they know the game. So if agents are dealing with the family of people seeking asylum that already happened about an hour and a half ago, and you've got these groups trying to run in, well, when you've got a caravan of 4,000 coming, it absolutely paralyzes the ability of the Border Patrol to process a group that large, and that's why it makes this such a very, very difficult task.
Yeah, let's bring Geraldo back in. Geraldo, you know, you mentioned a moment ago this shouting match, apparently profanity-laced yesterday at the White House outside the Oval Office between the Chief of Staff and the National Security Advisor about exactly how to deal with the border crisis. They're going to be dealing with an even more difficult calculation if suddenly Democrats take back the House in the midterms, and they're very much against the president's policies on the border.
Yeah, they may, if things go their way, and I suspect that they may not, they will control one house and they'll promote liberal border policies, but it won't pass the Senate. I think it's a non-starter. What we need here, this is a classic case where we need bipartisanism, we need reason, we need compassion, we need the president and both houses of Congress on the same page. We're a very wealthy country. We're next to desperately poor countries. This will happen forever unless we take action. And I suspect that the only way to stop this flow from poor to rich is to help these countries create conditions where their natives stay. Because I say again, even though Griff alludes to the perpetrators who carry contraband and so forth, the vast majority of these people want nothing more than a chance to work. They are good people. They are the kind of people who America has historically made our foundation stone in this nation of immigrants. We just need order. We need safety. We need regularity. And I think the president wins on this issue if he can be tough at the one hand and then compassionate on the other.
You just mentioned the possibility that Republicans, against the odds, hold on to the House. If they do, it would probably be a slimmer majority than they have today. Obviously, they would still likely lose seats, which makes it harder for the president to get funding for the wall, which he hasn't gotten in big numbers. He's gotten small bits of funding, but big funding when he's had majorities in the House and Senate, stronger majorities. So what would be your advice to the president moving forward, dealing with either a Democratic House or a tougher majority of Republicans, a slimmer majority of Republicans to get that funding?
Got it, Ed. I've been on the show 17 years. I've been preaching the same song. Compromise is difficult because neither side gets everything they want. The Democrats must compromise. They have historically been in favor of a wall. The Democrats must give President Trump his wall. On the other hand, the president, and he has shown flashes of compassion, driven by the First Lady, driven by Ivanka, his daughter. He's shown flashes of compassion. Give the DREAM Act students the best of the best. Give them a pass. They've earned their citizenship. Give them the right to citizenship. Neither side gets everything they want. Both sides get some of what they want. And we can start regularizing the situation at the southern border where there has never been not one time of verified penetration by a terrorist. That is not the issue. The issue is regularity in our labor force, being fair to American workers, filling the gaps where the United States doesn't have enough people to work, like in the fields, in the meat packing, in the poultry processing, these horrible jobs citizens don't do. Let's compromise. Let's fix this.
All right. Thank you, Geraldo. Griff, I want to go back out to you because I'm curious. When we're seeing these individuals, they look like they're all men. You said there was a family, and I want you to take us through the whole timeline of what you've seen this morning. But they're all men. They look young. They look fit. They look like they're nicely dressed. Any idea? I know there's a language barrier, but any idea of what they wanted to do in America? Were they looking for work? Did they find drugs on these guys? What's their story? And do they know each other? Do all those guys that have been put in that van, do they know each other?
That's a great question, Ainsley. So I just wanted to also address, because I was listening to Geraldo talk, here's the deal. The Border Patrol agents would be the first to tell you that there is a large majority of these folks that are trying to get a better life in America and have paid $4,000 to $8,000 to someone they've never met to march them through difficult terrain. But here's the task. This is the difficulty of the Border Patrol's task is they've got to find the murderers. They've got to find the people that want to do ill to our country, because they are the first line of defense in securing our nation. This is national security. That's why you hear people say that, and that is a difficulty in weeding out these large numbers, is who are the folks that pose the greatest risk, and that's a tough task. Now, with just the respect to the people I've seen, they've been mostly all men. There were 2 women I've seen in the groups we've been apprehending all morning. There was only one that was actually a Mexican national. He was believed to be the guide. The rest were from other countries, mostly Central Americans, Honduras, Guatemala, and El Salvador. The families, which I've been listening to the reports of, we haven't gone and seen, but they immediately showed up, as they have every morning. They're in 50 to 100, 150 every morning seeking asylum. They're not actually trying to chase and evade like this group was. But, just circling back, the point is important. There is a lot of people trying to get a better life, but there's also a element in this, and this Border Patrol is doing their darndest to weed it out.
They certainly are. Griff, thanks for your reporting. Geraldo, thanks for your analysis.
Thanks,
we'll
Griff.
appreciate it. We're sticking with our top story, the crackdown on illegal immigration. More Fox and Friends. Months ago, our cameras rolling as Border Patrol agents arrested a group of illegal immigrants crossing into the U.S., at least trying to get in from Mexico.
This is that massive migrant caravan, now 4,000 strong, inches a little closer to the United States. So what's being done to stop all of this?
Here with reaction, Cuban-American conservative running for Congress in the 27th District of Florida, Maria Elvira Salazar. We also have Griff Jenkins, as you can see, as the sun comes up and that van fills up with people who are about to be processed down there in McAllen, Texas. Maria, good morning to you. Thank you for joining us. What do you make of what we're watching with Griff Jenkins' live camera from our southern border as men and women are being arrested?
Well, people are fighting for their lives. That's why. It's what would you do? And I'm not saying condoning their behavior, but we have to understand that this is a recurring problem. And that's what I believe that President Trump, who is the ultimate deal maker, should be doing the same thing that he did with Kim Jong-un and call for an emergency summit meeting in Tegucigalpa, who is the capital of Honduras, and invite the president of Honduras, El Salvador, and Guatemala, and ask them in which way this country can help them. Hey, this happened before with Ronald Reagan. I was there. I was the Univision Central American bureau chief, and I saw how the United States showed leadership and helped our backyard to have prosperity and be able to keep their boys home. You have to understand that Honduras is the most violent country in the hemisphere, and you would do it too if your daughter is facing to be raped or your son to be part of a. And I'm not condoning. I understand that we need to protect our border, and I am a Republican, and I believe that we need to have a very strict border security. But you also have to understand that our neighbors are desperate. So what do? We help them stay home.
Well, Maria, we are giving them a lot of money. We've been running the numbers all this week, and millions of dollars to each of these Central American countries. How are they using that money? Why do we continuously see people leaving and fleeing and talking about rape in these countries? What is our money being used for?
That's a very good, and the money is around $200 to $300 million earmarked for each country. Reality is that we could earmark those funds for specific programs. But then I go back to my idea. President Trump needs to show up there, just like he did in North Korea, and say, here we are. We want to help you. Once again, we want to help you keep your people home. Let's do security for police. Let's do some education programs, whatever it takes. We've done it before. It's just that it's time for the United States to wake up, and then we'll stop what's happening at the border right now, as it happened years ago with Reagan, as I just said.
Well, Maria, we want to bring in our correspondent, Griff Jenkins, who's been all over this story for us all morning and long before this program as well, because he's been on the border before. And, Griff, when you hear that talk about maybe there should be a summit, maybe this is an emergency that needs to be dealt with, and Democrats and Republicans go back and forth, Griff, what about those Border Patrol agents behind you who are sort of, they're just trying to do their job as this political fight plays out?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yes.
That's a great point, Ed. You know, look, the Border Patrol will be the first to tell you they don't make the laws, they enforce the laws, and they do a darn good job of doing it. But if you also talk to the leaders here with the Border Patrol, they'll tell you that it is loopholes in these laws that drive people across the border. Let me give you just a little context for just this tiny little area that you've been seeing this activity, right? It is a 300% increase from this exact time last year in the terms of numbers of family units that are coming here. More than 5,000 people in the last 2 weeks, and upwards of 600 pounds of marijuana coming. And that's not including the people that are these middle-aged to young men that we've seen running all over the border today. And so it is the driver of loopholes in the laws that is causing this to happen. So if they do have a summit, and the Border Patrol will be glad to enforce whatever laws our politicians make, they want to see some consistency so that there isn't an incentive on the part of the cartels who are ruthless and very much watching what we're doing in this country.
Go ahead, Maria.
The Border Patrols are the heroes, and just ICE, they're the heroes. They're just following the rules from Washington. So that's why Washington needs to step up to the plate and show leadership. The people that are coming, I'm sure that El Chapo is sending a lot of drugs, and I'm sure the coyotes are smuggling a lot of people. But the overwhelming majority of those people are facing death. They're under the threat of death. So what would you do? Hey, go, you know, because we are the best country in the hemisphere. And they know it. And they know that the Americans are going to treat them a lot better than the Honduran officials.
Pardon me, Maria. You're running in an open seat, as I understand. Ileana Ros-Lehtinen, a longtime Republican, retiring. Democrat Donna Shalala from the Clinton cabinet. A lot of Democrats assumed wrongly that she might be a shoo-in for this seat. It's now a toss-up, basically, down there in South Florida. How big of an issue is illegal immigration in this particular race?
It is, but we understand it very well. And, you know, we are the ultimate melting pot. And that's why I feel that I could really advise not only the president, but the whole leadership in Congress, because we get it. I live among them. I have lived with them. And we know that it's easy. You know, Hondurans and the Central Americans love the United States. We are the beacon of hope. That's why everybody wants to come here. But we also get that not everybody can come into the United States. So let's help them. So the seat, you just mentioned Donna Shalala. She just made a very big mistake a couple of days ago by inviting one of a congresswoman from California. Her name is Barbara Lee. And Barbara Lee is one of the most important apologists and defenders of Fidel Castro. So how could you be inviting somebody that has shown such preference for Fidel to the heart of the Cuban exile? It shows that my opponent is completely clueless and disconnected from our community, a community that she will want to represent in the House of Representatives in the U.S. Congress. So I think that right there it's very clear who is really the ideal representative.
Pardon us, Maria, but Griff, I think, has a little bit more news. Griff, we got 30 seconds. What's happening behind you?
Just very quickly, I'm going to take a moment just to ask these gentlemen, can you ask them why they came here?
Señor, ¿por qué viniste a los Estados Unidos?
Por necesidad.
For necessity? Okay. And if any of them come to do harm to the United States?
Vinieron a Estados Unidos nomás a trabajar.
Okay.
What's that?
Just for work.
Just for work. Okay. I just want to give you, you know, you're asking me earlier, they say they're coming here for work. They're 4 men in their 20s. Who knows? They'll be doing a little debriefing and processing them. We'll find out more about them perhaps later. But you wanted to ask them, so they all say they're coming forward.
Griff, thanks for your reporting.
Maria, if you win,
But that was not the right translation. He did not translate what you said.
What did he say? Real quick, we got 15.
He translated. He said, "Are you coming here for what reason?" He didn't ask, "Are you coming here to harm the United States?"
Okay.
And then they repeated once again, "Is out of need." Sure, need for work, need for security.
Maria, we got to go. Thanks, Maria. Thanks, Griff.
Sure.
Appreciate
Good
it.
to see
Fox
you.
and Friends on the other side.
Thank you very much.
Why is Old Dominion #1 in customer satisfaction?
BDO says the approval process is similar throughout Latin America.
We'll need first-hand experience in each country.
And BDO can find these people.
BDO has these people.
People who...
What happens if we lose? Go back and look if we lose in 2016. If they get the House, folks, I'm just going to tell you, whatever Trump wants to do is going to stop. It's going to be paralyzed. It's going to be nothing but, in every House committee that's relevant, inspections, investigations, subpoenas. They're going to go back and try to get Kavanaugh thrown out. It's going to be nothing but 2 years of get even with Trump for having the audacity to win. And the business of the nation is going to be brought to a screeching halt.
There's Rush Limbaugh. He was on with Sean Hannity. Sean did his show last night from Palm Beach. It's 17 days and counting until the midterms, and everybody's trying to figure out what is going to go on with the Senate. Right now, according to most pollsters, it looks like the Republicans could actually pick up a couple of seats across the country, which, you know, half a year ago was going to be the other way around. But the House still too close to call.
Absolutely. And you would think that, well, given the talk of all the blue wave and all of that, that Democrats would have gotten the House, easy pickings. And instead, now there's real analysts in both parties saying, wait a second, not just Rush Limbaugh, this is a little closer to call. Maybe the Democrats will take it by a small margin, or maybe the Republicans will just barely hang on to the House.
Well, Rush really brings up a good point. There's several points he brought up that I thought were interesting. He reminded all of us of what we've been seeing. We've been seeing so much about the Russia collusion and so much about what happened with Brett Kavanaugh. I think America is so sick of that. I think they just want policy. They want to focus on the economy and jobs and health care, the southern border, exactly. And Rush went on to say, he also mentioned that he doesn't look at the polls anymore because we saw what happened in 2016, or maybe he doesn't look at, he looks at them, but he doesn't put much stock.
Doesn't take them as gospel.
Exactly.
You know, the way a lot of people in the mainstream media do, which is Democrats are up. Well, hang on. I thought Hillary Clinton was up in 2016 and the whole deal was flipped.
Right. Remember, in the spring, there was such a large margin of people who would prefer a Democratic Congress, and now it is less than 10 points. I think it was 17 at one point. Meanwhile, Rush had this other observation about the Democrats and what might happen.
I think there are things that have yet to happen that are going to determine outcomes in some races that we don't know, so it's still very hard to predict. Kavanaugh feedback reaction was 100% positive for Republicans. The Democrats really blew that. I don't have survey data. I don't trust it. It hasn't been right consistently enough for me. The people doing these surveys desperately want Trump gone. I don't know how they can take that out of their work. I don't believe in pure objectivity, so I distrust.
If I put you on the spot, prediction.
We hold the House and we increase the Senate. And because I think that's justice. I think that's just. I think the Democrat Party deserves to lose in the single biggest electoral landslide defeat in my lifetime because of the actions they've taken just in the last month.
So Rush says the Democrats deserve to lose.
Yeah. We'll see whether he's right or wrong. Carly Shimkus, meanwhile, is looking at a lot of other headlines breaking overnight.
Yeah, that's right. And an update on a story we've been following. Facebook taking down Nation of Islam minister Louis Farrakhan's anti-Semitic video.
Call me a hater. You know what they do? Call me an anti-Semite. Stop it. I'm anti-termite.
Well, Facebook says the video violates its hate speech policy. This despite Twitter refusing to suspend Farrakhan's account for posting that very video. Texas Democrats accused of mailing voting applications to non-citizens. The Public Interest Legal Foundation showing the forms that are pre-filled out with boxes checked off, saying the applicant is a U.S. citizen over the age of 18. A complaint now under investigation. Texas Governor Greg Abbott says if it's true, there will be serious consequences. And Indiana Senator Joe Donnelly's new political ad is reminding people of a popular HBO show. Take a look.
I split with my own party to support funding for Trump's border wall. And Mike Braun, he ships jobs to China. We've got to cut that out. I'm Joe Donnelly. I approve this message.
Well, it appears the incumbent senator took a page from Veep's Jonah Ryan.
Someone is chopping back.
I'm Jonah Ryan.
Vote for Jonah Ryan. He'll chop President Meyer down to size.
Chip off the old block there. The Indiana Democrat is battling for re-election against Republican Mike Braun. And guys, those are your headlines.
Veep is so funny.
It is very
Do you
funny.
ever watch it?
I do. I do. My favorite HBO show, though, by far, is Game of Thrones.
Yeah, that's a good one, too. That's a good one, too.
diabolical.
If you can keep track of whose tribe is who.
Yeah,
There you go.
All right, Janice is outside with a bunch of people this morning.
Are you guys ready?
We're ready.
Look at this amazing crowd for a Friday just for Fox and Friends. And come on over here. Do we have a special day happening today?
Yes, we do.
What is it?
80th birthday.
Oh my gosh, it's taken you 80 years to get here. That's fabulous. Are you guys excited? Yeah. Okay, real quick, let's take a look at the maps real quick. Here in New York City, a little cool, but it's refreshing. We've got beautiful sunshine. Watching Texas, where we could see the potential for more rain in the forecast, unfortunately. So my friends in Texas, just be aware of the forecast. We have the potential for flooding. Okay, and one more. You guys have a message for somebody inside?
Yes. Happy birthday, Steve!
Happy birthday, Steve!
That is so kind that they said happy 80th to Steve.
They came for you, Steve.
Thank you very much, JD.
Just
Happy
kidding about the age.
birthday.
Thank you very much. Okay, so we've got something that's going to happen out on the plaza come Monday.
That's exactly right. We're going to tell everyone about this, about Fox and Friends Flu Shot Day. It is Monday, October 22nd. We want to invite you to come to Fox Square on Monday morning to receive a free flu shot from Walgreens during our show. Flu shots will be limited to the first 100 people ages 7 and up. It's all taking place on the Fox Square, thanks to Walgreens, between 8 and 9 a.m. Eastern Time. State and health restrictions may apply.
Absolutely. So if you need a flu shot and you're in this neck of the woods, stop by Monday morning between 8 and 9. That's when I'm going to be getting my flu shot. Brian's going to get one, and a bunch of other folks.
I've already had mine, so I can't get it on Monday. But
could have been free.
I know.
All right.
True.
All right. Meanwhile, in other news, a Democratic operative for a George Soros-funded group arrested for grabbing a Nevada Republican staffer. That Republican joins us live to share her story.
And the nation is wrapped up in lotto fever. Over $1 billion up for grabs. Are you the world's next billionaire?
Hope so.
We are live next.
What an 80th birthday there would be.
You're not allowed to quit your job if you win. All it takes, $2 and a dream. So did you get your lottery ticket?
The Mega Millions jackpot is now soaring to $970 million ahead of tonight's big drawing.
Christina Partsenevelis from our sister network Fox Business is talking to people right here in New York City. They are hoping to hit it big. What's it looking like?
It's true. Right now it's a little bit quiet, but people have been coming in all morning to buy the Mega Millions and the Powerball. Mega Millions is at $970 million. Like you said, with the Powerball, which is at $340 million, you're making more. If you win both, which the odds are 1 in 88 quadrillion, you would get $1.4 billion total. So I've stopped this lovely young man who was jetting out. You don't buy lotto tickets very often, do you?
No. Somebody just told me about it in the locker room. He said it was $1 billion, so that's what I thought I could.
If you take the total of both together, then it's $1.4 billion.
Okay, good. So I bought 3, 1 for me, and 2 for my friends who I'm having breakfast with now.
Oh, see, what a nice guy. There you go. Well, I hope you guys win. What would you do if you won the money?
Well, first of all, I'm hoping they pay for breakfast. I'll worry about that later.
Thank you so much. And there you go. So you just have one example of many people buying tickets. Though, what are the actual odds of winning? You have a better chance of being attacked by a shark. That's a 1 in 80 million chance right there. You also, or 8 million, sorry. You have if you want to achieve sainthood, you have a 1 in 20 million chance of doing that. And if you ever get a royal flush in poker, you have a 1 in 650 chance. So much higher odds with those than actually, unfortunately, winning this Mega Millions right now. And you can see it's quiet, so I'm going to throw it back to you guys. But it's a big day for all of these shops.
It's just it's fun to follow. It's just something that doesn't cost a lot. That guy, if he gives 2 tickets to his friends, Christina, what happens if they win? Do they share it?
They've got legal custody,
well,
right?
That's a very good point, because the last major, the largest lottery in history for Mega Millions was back in 2016, and it was 11 people that won it, so they split it evenly. But that's when things get murky, because he's just handing those tickets over to his friends.
That's
He
right.
hasn't talked about lawyers.
Let's
he
see
hasn't
what
talked about
happens.
splitting
Well,
it.
it probably won't happen. The
Things
chances
could
are
get
pretty
really
slim.
rough if they win.
All right, Christina.
Thank you.
Maybe me.
All right.
Maybe.
Yeah, meanwhile,
Thank you.
Good to see you. A Democratic operative for a George Soros-funded group arrested for grabbing a Nevada Republican staffer. That GOP staffer joins us live next to share her story.
But right now, Bill Hemmer joins us to share his story.
I'm going for sainthood in that.
You're right.
Good
Yes,
luck.
you're going to win.
You guys can have the money. Morning on a Friday, guys. Mobs versus jobs. The president back on the trail today. 18 days to a midterm. Marsha Blackburn in a very tight race in Tennessee. Dean Heller in a very tight race in Nevada. They're both here live to tell us what will determine a winner in their state. Also, Mike Pompeo with pointed comments about what he did not learn overseas. It's a Friday. We'll see you in 12 minutes, guys. Top of the hour.
This is Stonington. The left turning to violence, leaving some Republicans fearing for their lives.
A Democratic operative for, yes, a George Soros-funded group arrested after allegedly pushing and grabbing a Nevada GOP staffer at a campaign rally in Las Vegas, and it's not his first attack, actually.
Yeah, it's not. Joining us now to share her story is campaign manager for Adam Laxalt, who is running for governor in that state, Kristen Davison. Kristen, thank you for being with us. We were talking about this yesterday. We were showing the pictures of, it looked like bruises on your arms. Tell us what happened.
Sure. Good morning, guys. Thanks for having me. We were at a campaign rally. It had ended. The Attorney General and I were talking in a private room, and a very large gentleman aggressively pushed his way into the conversation. Generally, when you deal with trackers, usually they're very respectful. They keep the personal space. This gentleman did not. He was very aggressive, shoving his phone in our faces, yelling, screaming, chased us down the hallway, really bumping into, shoving staffers on the way. We entered a private room, shut the door. This gentleman pushed his way through the door. I got trapped between the door and the wall, and had this gentleman kind of put my arm behind my back and held on to it and just kept pushing and screaming at our candidate. And at that point, as I tried to get away, this individual just grabbed tighter and was kind of contorted with my arm behind my back. And that's when I really felt terrified that I couldn't get away, because when I would try to get away, my arm was stuck behind my back and kept yelling, "Help me, stop," and he wouldn't stop. And then we got to a point where he yelled, Adam, the candidate, you can make this stop. And that kind of freaked me out a little bit, that he was going to keep hurting me until our candidate answered his questions. So very, very scary, very disturbing stuff.
Absolutely. So this guy was arrested. He was fired from his job. He's a tracker. That means he's got a camera, and he was yelling. So what was he trying to provoke? An answer from Mr. Laxalt that would be embarrassing, or what?
He was yelling a number of things and chasing us down the hallway, bumping into members of my staff, yelling a number of different questions. I don't really know. A lot of it didn't really make a lot of sense. Okay. Usually that's what trackers do. They try to, you shout gotcha questions to get a candidate on record saying something they wouldn't otherwise want to say.
Okay. Kristen, now that you've had a chance to dig into this as well, I assume some of your colleagues we mentioned have found out that he was involved in another attack. What do you know about that? But most importantly, how are you feeling now? How are you doing?
Sure. Well, I never knew who this individual was until after the event, and found out that he had done this previously before, and found out that he was employed by American Bridge, the liberal opposition research firm. And it was really disappointing that someone would have someone like this on their payroll that had been arrested just a few months earlier for shoving someone to the ground. And, you know, he kept shouting, this is what I get paid to do. And it's very, very disappointing that he would be encouraged and paid to do something like this. Myself, I was lucky. Starting to feel better, obviously very shaken up. It's something that's disturbing just because it's dangerous and really discouraging for the rest of us out there.
Kristen Davison, campaign manager for Adam Laxalt. Thank you very much for joining us from Reno today.
Thanks for having me. Have a good one.
You too.
More Fox and Friends.
This flu season, protect